around in the market that could be harmful to the product. 1. Recently, Major League Hockey has had problems with players getting injured by faulty equipment. Alarmed, the commissioner has asserted that equipment companies don't care about the well-being of players.
See how useful this SWOT information is? We already know some quick and easy steps to improve Tabby's
market or growing trends that could affect this product. 1. The newest superstar in hockey, Pyotr Kolmanov, has declared he is on the hunt for a hockey brand to endorse. 2. The Bauer factory just burned down. 3. The Hockey Times reported that Tabby was the coolest sounding brand name in the hockey industry and is the kind of company that could make hockey popular world over.
Threats, another external factor. Are there any trends or information floating around in the market that could be harmful to the product? 1. Recently, Major League Hockey has had problems with players getting injured by faulty equipment. Alarmed, the commissioner has asserted that equipment companies don't care about the well-being of players.
See how useful this SWOT information is? We already know some quick and easy steps to improve Tabby's position, and hopefully, its market share. If an internal strength can be matched to an external threat, leverage is created, meaning the strength can be used to cancel out the threat. Tabby should take interest in wounded players, pledging to help in their recovery and to look into safety problems. And since Tabby has a reasonably cool image already, the company should do whatever it can to sign Kolmanov for endorsements. And in the long term, of course, Tabby should work on making the products less brittle.
That's enough SWOT, don't you think? The last tool for marketing plans we'll talk about is trend analysis. Trend analysis more closely examines the data from the opportunities and threats section of the SWOT.
In general, trends are changes in sales or market share over time. If Tabby Corporation were to notice that in the past 3 years, sales have increased in the north and fallen in the south, that's a trend.
Careful analysis of trends is important because there's always more going on than shows on the surface. We can't just look at the uses of our products. We also need to look at other aspects of a consumer's life.
Now, Tabby's marketers could take a closer look at their north-south trend to see exactly why it happens. On closer examination, they find that consumers in the north look for insulated skates to keep them warm. The insulation in Tabby skates is popular in the north, but in the south, the skates are just too hot.
Another good example of a trend is what happened with canned spaghetti. Kids have been eating canned spaghetti for decades. The companies who make it, however, examine the current trends and they realize that kids don't just eat what tastes good. Kids eat stuff that is fun and cool.
So, there's not just SpaghettiOs anymore. There are dinosaur SpaghettiOs and Batman SpaghettiOs. And those kinds sell even better than the original.
So what did Tabby Hockey Equipment's marketers learn from all these tools? Well, the first thing that they did was refine their marketing objectives. The BCG matrix helped them realize that the goal of raising total market share by 2% was still too broad. The Tabby marketers saw that it was better to set individual objectives for each strategic business unit. The SWOT analysis shows the Tabby marketers the position of their products and highlights the product's strengths and weaknesses. The trend analysis allowed Tabby's marketers to understand the causes behind their market's behavior. Tabby now has a good understanding of their own product and their market, which are the two integral factors of being able to begin a marketing plan.
Section C, the marketing plan.
Now we know the marketing process, and we've gone over 3 tools which will help you create a marketing plan. It is now the time for the marketing plan.
A company creates a marketing plan for each section of its business. Sometimes, if the company makes separate products, a separate marketing plan is made for each product.
In a basic sense, every marketing plan contains 3 things: a situation analysis, development of goals, and a strategy to achieve those goals.
Let's check out the situation analysis.
The situation analysis is made up of a lot of the information we just went over. It examines the company's product and its place in the market. The situation analysis also examines the products and positions of competitors.
The basic idea of the situation analysis is to let the marketers know where they stand before anything gets started.
Once the company has a good hold on the current conditions, it can set goals. This is the second stage of the marketing plan, development of goals. Makes sense, doesn't it? Tabby Hockey Equipment's marketers, for example, looked at their BCG matrix and realized that they had potential to grow in the ice hockey market. So they set a goal for Tabby of increasing market share.
Don't get confused. Now we're at an even more specific level than we were on with the marketing objectives. We're just talking about the specific goals of specific marketing plans. A whole bunch of marketing plans together achieve the marketing objectives. And the thing is, marketing plans can do so many different things.
Increasing market share or increasing sales isn't always the goal of a marketing plan. Sometimes it's something a little more mundane. Maybe the situation analysis determines that the product has an antiquated image. In this case, the goal of the marketing plan may simply be to update the product's image. As long as your goal is in line with your company's marketing objectives, the marketing plan can do just about anything.
Once the situation analysis has been finished and the goals have been set, the only part of the plan remaining is to determine the strategy to achieve those goals. The strategy can involve any of 4 areas: the product, the price, the place it's sold, or the promotion the company does for the product. The company can devise a strategy that incorporates all of those means, or just some of them, or just one of them.
Don't freak out about these 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. We'll spend more time on them later.
The most important factor in the company's strategy is to choose the most effective method that is within its means. We would all like to advertise during the Super Bowl, but we just can't all afford the couple $1,000,000 for it.
So, that's the plan in a nutshell. Situation analysis, development of goals, and strategy to achieve goals.
We know the steps to creating a marketing plan, so let's put them into action and do a quick plan for Tabby's ice hockey division. We'll say Tabby marketers have refined their marketing objective, and now the objective is to increase the market share of the ice hockey division by 10%. This marketing plan is intended to help accomplish that marketing objective.
Situation analysis. We kind of already did that, but we'll go over that again. Overall, the company holds a 2% market share. In terms of ice hockey products, the company isn't doing so well either. The ice hockey division has a low market share in a high growth market segment. There's money to be had out there, Tabby just has to find it.
In the next step, developing goals, Tabby sets the goals for the ice hockey division. They have to increase their market share. The high growth of the ice hockey market is too good of an opportunity to miss. So there's the goal of their marketing plan. Increase the market share of the ice hockey division by 10%. Remember the BCG matrix? Tabby wants to turn the ice hockey division's question mark into a star.
Finally, the company has to decide on the strategy to achieve those goals. To help the marketers decide, they consult their trend analysis. Checking the trends, Tabby's researchers find that a growing number of hockey products are being sold in non-traditional locations. People aren't just buying hockey equipment at hockey stores, they're getting it at department stores, pro shops, shopping malls, and even through the mail. Tabby marketers realize that in order to grow, Tabby products also have to be sold in these outlets. They decide that their strategy is going to increase the number and vary the nature of their retail outlets.
Let's go over that quickly. Situation analysis. Tabby market share is tiny, and the company risks missing out on growth in the ice hockey market. Goals. Increase market share by 10%. Strategy to achieve goals. Expand the number of markets in which Tabby ice hockey products are sold.
Got that? If not, rewind.
Part 3. Marketing research and information.
Marketers don't just think up good ideas and sell stuff, they also research.
It's not good enough to make up a marketing plan. You have to have something to back it up. Marketing is about knowing your market and targeting your product and advertising to that market's needs and wants. The only way you can do that is through research. The tools we used before to make a marketing plan are the beginnings of research.
Think of marketing like flying a plane. If the pilot wants to get to the final destination, he needs to know the coordinates of the target. Marketing research is like pinpointing the coordinates of your target.
Section A. Sources of information.
There are 2 basic kinds of information: secondary and primary.
Secondary information is anything that has been gathered by someone else and presented to you. Newspapers, magazines, encyclopedias, the internet, and data collection companies are all sources of secondary information.
Primary information is anything you find out by yourself by going directly to the source. ABC News and the Washington Post get primary information whenever they do an ABC News Washington Post survey. Hell, anytime you find some Yahoo on the street and ask his opinion, you're getting primary information.
Obtaining primary information means that you go to the market and see what happens there.
There are some pretty well recognized sources of secondary and primary information, and we'll go over them now.
Section B. Sources of secondary data.
Two sources of secondary data are used most frequently: government data and syndicated data. Let's look at government data first.
The Freedom of Information Act allows all U.S. citizens access to all government information that isn't confidential or vital to national security.
Getting data from the government under the Freedom of Information Act is done with a FOIA request. When you do a FOIA request, you fill out a form asking the government to get you a bunch of documents on a specific subject. The government people make copies for you. Unfortunately, you have to pay for the photocopying, and it might take up to 8 weeks to get the documents. Still, it's usually less time than if you conducted your own study.
What kind of info can you get? Well, Congress always needs information so they can make accurate and fair laws. To do that, they created the Congressional Budget Office, which does more than just budgeting. The Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, studies pizza eating and housing trends and all kinds of stuff. CBO information is the kind of thing you can get using the Freedom of Information Act. But it's not just Congress that has useful information. The whole government does the same kind of thing.
An easier and faster way to get government information is the U.S. Statistical Abstract. The abstract is a big book of government statistics that sits in the corner of just about every public library. You can also access it through the World Wide Web.
In the statistical abstract are a bunch of numbers that detail purchasing trends, household incomes, and that kind of thing. The abstract is a good place to start your marketing research.
Enough about government information. Let's move on to syndicated data.
Another place to get secondary information is from syndicated data sources. These are companies that go out and examine markets, collecting numbers and information just because they know someone like you is going to wander up and want to buy the data.
A company called AC Nielsen, for example, collects all the information from grocery store scanners around the country. That information is a detailed record of everything that sells at a sample of over 3,000 stores. The data gives companies valuable information about how their own products sell and how competitors' products sell. When companies buy the data, they don't just get their own sales figures, they get everyone else's too.
Section C. Sources of primary information.
There are 4 main sources of primary information: focus groups, personal interviews, surveys, and experiments.
Focus groups are 6 to 12 people who are brought together to talk about what they would ideally like from a product and all kinds of other things. This helps the marketer understand the attitude toward the product and the attitude of the market in general.
Personal interviews have the same goals as focus groups. In a personal interview, a company hopes to learn about the market by speaking directly to someone who's in it.
Personal interviews happen with one consumer and one marketer. The marketer often reads questions from a pre-written script so that all the interviews stay consistent. Then, after a bunch of interviews, the marketer puts together all the data to try to make some conclusion.
Reaction time is a factor in this, so please pay attention. Answer as quickly as you can. You are walking through a desert. You have a liter of water.
Well, how come I be there?
You're on vacation. You needed to get away.
Do you make up these questions? Or does somebody write them down for you?
Surveys are the telephone and mass mailing forms of interviews. The people who receive the survey are known as the sample. The results from the survey are taken to be a representation of the entire market. Surveys try to cover a large number of people so that the data returned from surveys can be statistically analyzed.
Experimentation is when you hobble together a horrible creation and then juice it up with electricity just to see if it works.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Sydney, destroy him. No, Sydney, him!
Experimentation is when you test assertions about your product by using tests according to scientific methods.
We're not going to get into the specifics of experimentation because this isn't a hard science course. But experimentation is basically when you do some kind of test, like a flavor test or a preference test or something like that. To make sure your experiment is scientific, you follow a predetermined set of procedures, and afterwards, you analyze your results with statistics and stuff.
Those are the forms of research that companies usually use to learn more about their markets. Next, we're going to look at some things that the companies can do with their research.
Part 4. Segmenting, targeting, and positioning.
Part of the purpose of research is to help you determine who you're trying to sell to. Markets are really big. A company can sometimes sell to an entire market, but more often it has to break the market down and approach a certain group with a specific image. That's what segmenting, targeting, and positioning are all about.
Section A. Segmenting.
Segmenting is the process of using your research to divide the market into discernible chunks, or sections, which are easier to deal with than the market as a whole. The best way to segment is to make chunks that are homogeneous, meaning they have all the same characteristics.
The first thing a company must do is define the characteristics of its targeted market.
Anything that describes the members of a market is a good example characteristic.
Some of the more common characteristics that companies track are demographics, lifestyle, usage level, geographic area, or benefits sought. Let's see what those are.
Demographics are basic statistics that describe the innate characteristics of a consumer. You know, age, race, gender, income level, that kind of thing. Demographics can be a good indicator of how and why people use a product.
Lifestyle is similar to demographics and is also sometimes known as psychographics. Sounds scary, doesn't it? Lifestyle describes how the person behaves. Is your consumer a shadowy secret agent woman or a beer-swilling sap? It makes a difference.
How, you might ask? Well, lifestyle is sometimes related to demographics, but not dependent upon them. A demographic like age, for example, may say a lot about a consumer's lifestyle, but consumers with the same demographics can have different lifestyles. One person who's 45 and makes $100,000 a year might have a Volvo, and another person who's 45 and makes $100,000 a year might buy a Land Cruiser or a Jeep Cherokee. They have different lifestyles, which indicate different buying habits which may or may not include your product.
Usage level indicates how often the consumer uses the product. Once a day, once a week, or never. It also indicates how much a consumer uses your product. You know, like a sip, a slug, or a whole bottle. Each consumer has different needs.
The trick here is a little thing called the 80-20 principle. This principle states that a small percentage of your consumers, usually around 20%, account for 80% of your income. If 20% are responsible for all 80% of your sales, those 20% must be using a lot of your product. That's how important usage level is.
Geographic is kind of self-explanatory. People in Minnesota tend to buy snow shovels. People in Florida don't.
Benefits sought is a really important category. This is why consumers buy your product. Are they buying it to eat between meals or to throw with great force at stray animals? The first group is more concerned with taste. The second group is more concerned with hardness.
So once you have a good idea of the general characteristics of the market, you need to break the market up into segments based on the similarity of its consumers. What does that mean? Well, you group together the people who are alike and who buy the product for the same reason. Let's look at an example with Tabby hockey equipment.
For Tabby hockey equipment, a large section of their demographic is professional hockey players who buy the equipment for their games. But another large contingent are parents who buy the equipment for their children. It's useful to separate these two segments because they have different needs.
Once you've identified the segments, you pick one. This segment is your target segment.
Section B, targeting.
Once you got the segments, you have to pick one or several to target.
Which segments to pick depends heavily upon the needs of the particular company. The company picks the segment or segments that would be the most profitable and that the company has the resources to serve.
Wheelie cheese. It's cheese.
For wheelie cheese, supplying cheese to restaurants would be a huge and profitable market. But wheelie cheese doesn't produce enough cheese to ever fill that market, and they also don't have the transportation system to take their product to all those restaurants. So, while the restaurant market is profitable, it would be a poor segment for Wheelie Cheese to choose, because they wouldn't be able to serve it appropriately and would lose money.
A better market for Wheelie Cheese would be those specialty stores in airports. The executives of Wheelie Cheese know a distributor who only services airports, and we all know that people in airports need cheese.
Once a company narrows down which and how many segments to target, it has to decide on a specific strategy to market to that segment or segments.
There are 3 basic targeting strategies a company can adopt: undifferentiated, concentrated, or differentiated.
Please, no more cheese.
Okay, we'll use something different for these examples.
An undifferentiated strategy means that the company directs the same message at the entire market. All the market segments get the same treatment.
The undifferentiated strategy is usually cheap because you only have one product and one marketing plan, but profits may fall because you do not cater to the unique features of individual market segments. Also, undifferentiated marketing usually attracts competition, and profits drop quickly. That's because with an undifferentiated strategy, you're covering all the market segments, including the ones other companies consider their own. Other companies don't take too well to people elbowing in their business.
A concentrated strategy means the company chooses a specific market segment and bombards just that segment with a specific message.
Concentrated marketing is the cheapest of all because you have one product and one message going to a small number of people. The problem with concentrated marketing is that you're putting all of your eggs in one basket. And even if things do go well, you might attract much bigger companies who will either muscle you out or buy you up.
The final strategy is a differentiated strategy. In the differentiated strategy, the company goes after several different segments, but with messages specially tailored for each segment.
Differentiated marketing has the most coverage and the highest potential for profit. Procter & Gamble, for example, has scores of products all targeted at different market segments, and they make truckloads of money. However, differentiated marketing can get very expensive and cut down on profits. Usually, the only companies that can do differentiated marketing are the ones that have lots of money and lots of resources.
Remember, there are 3 basic targeting strategies: undifferentiated, concentrated, and differentiated. If you don't have a handle on that, now's a good time to rewind. Otherwise, let's move on to positioning.
Section C, positioning.
The position of the product in the marketplace is the consumer's perception of the product.
Product, Wheelie Cheese.
Smelly.
Position, Smelly Cheese. Product, Robo-Couriers.
Scary. Robots might kill me.
Position, Scary Robot People. Product, Sam Paste, the paste-flavored sandwich spread.
That'll make me sticky from eating sandwiches.
Position, Adhesive Sandwich Stuff.
So that's position. But what's positioning? Positioning is the process of how you want your product to be perceived. Whatever you focus on alters the public's perception of that product.
Perception of the product is important because it has a lot to do with how and why people buy your product.
A company alters position by highlighting specific attributes of the product.
Wheelie Cheese. It's shaped like a wheel.
There are several positioning strategies: benefit, user, occasion of use, product class, price and quality, and competitor. Each strategy is a way of differentiating your product by comparing it to others. You can either do this explicitly by mentioning the name of the other product, or implicitly by only implying that you're better.
By focusing on these strategies, the company can better decide which is the best strategy to alter the product's position. Let's run through the strategies now. We'll use a really neat product, a pet rock.
First strategy, benefit. Is there something extraordinary about the product?
It doesn't weigh much, which is extraordinary for a rock.
User, is there a specific group of people this product is designed for?
People who enjoy lavishing an inanimate object with special affection.
Occasion of use. Is there a particular use this product should be associated with?
This is the pet rock for washing hands.
Product class. Is there a particular category of products that this one should be associated with?
Pets or rocks?
Price and quality. Is it the cheapest? The best made?
These high-quality rocks withstand punishment. No one else sells pet rocks for less.
Competitor. Is there anything distinctive about this product that sets it apart from the competition?
Our pet rocks are more dependable than puppies.
The thing to remember about positioning is that it's always done in respect to the competitors. When you do the positioning, you can either be explicit about it and mention the competition, or you can imply the competition's presence. Either way, you need something to compare to, or you just can't compare.
Wheelie cheese is cheaper than bricky cheese. Wheelie cheese is the cheapest.
Let's go over those positioning strategies. They are benefit, user, occasion of use, product class, price or quality, and competitor. Each strategy is either explicit or implicit, based on whether the positioning mentions competitors or not.
Time for a review of a little of what we learned in Part 4, segmenting, targeting, and positioning. Segmenting is the process of dividing a market into segments which are made of consumers who are alike. Targeting is the process of selecting a target segment. Positioning is the process of refining your product's image in the eyes of the consumer.
Part 5. Overview of the 4 Ps. Product, price, place, and promotion.
If you haven't been listening to anything so far, anything at all, you need to start listening now. This is the most important part of the tape. This is what you need to know to pass marketing.
The 4 Ps are product, price, place, and promotion. The 4 Ps are essentially the roadmap to a marketing plan. Here's how the 4 Ps work in a really general sense.
The company starts out with a product. Once it has a product to sell, the company determines a good price for the product. Then, the company does research to determine the best way to get it to the right place to be sold. This is also sometimes called distribution. Finally, the company promotes that the product is available to the public.
What are you doing? Get out of here. Basically, the 4 Ps are the nuts and bolts, the practical part of the marketing plan. The plan we did before is the macro level, the general idea kind of thing. What we'll do now is show you how it works. Come on, bring it on!
Think you got a handle on that? Product, price, place or distribution, and finally promotion. In the next few sections, we'll go over each of the Ps in more detail. Incidentally, the 4 Ps are also sometimes called the marketing mix.
Part 6. Product.
There are 2 things that should be kept in mind about the product: the product's classification and the product life cycle.
Section A, classification of consumer products.
There are 3 types of consumer products: convenience products, shopping products, and specialty products.
Convenience products are products that make a consumer's life easier. The consumer buys these products often, seldom shops around, and isn't willing to delay their purchase.
The buying process for a convenience product is pretty simple.
A consumer who needs deodorant, for example, simply finds the deodorant and buys it. He may look to the left or right of his normal choice just to kinda check prices, but there's no way the average buyer is going to go home and spend the night agonizing over which deodorant to get.
I should have gotten banned, Mr. Cuddles.
The second kind of product is a shopping product. Shopping products are products that consumers will shop around for. Cars, computers, expensive stuff. Because the product has a higher cost and a longer life, consumers will go from place to place just to make sure they're getting the best damn whatever it is for their money.
Specialty products are ones that are unique, rare, and hard to find. Consumers won't shop around for these because of their loyalty to a certain product. Consumers are willing to go far out of their way to visit the only store that sells whatever it is. Fireworks are a good example of this. People go miles out of their way just to get some firecrackers.
We have to be honest. Fireworks aren't a good example if you go out of your way for them simply because they're illegal. We just like fireworks. Better examples of specialty products are fine jewelry or really good sandwiches that only one deli makes.
Section B, product life cycle.
The average product has a lifespan of 10 years, during which it goes through 4 stages.
Scriptwriter action figures.
The first stage is introduction, which is when the product is brought into the market.
New from Cerebellum, scriptwriter action figures.
The next